Hey, entrepreneurs, Zak Nordyke back with you, founder of Evergreen Learning Center. We're doing another installment of Zero to a Million. This video and the video series is going to be really concentrate on entrepreneurs that are in this phase of their business journey. How do you take a company from basically no money, no income, no revenue, to $1 million in top line revenue? This is a really fulfilling part of a business journey, but it comes with very unique learnings. And I'd like to share my experience as I've taken my organization from, a new company that wasn't doing any revenue to now $1 million. And I'm going to specifically talk with you today about working with contractors, because what do we hear often as business owners or as business operators? Oh, you have to have an A+ team. Well, what is an A+ team for one? But when you think through an A+ team, that usually takes A+ compensation, right? Most people who are really good at what they do, they don't want to work for what most newer entities can pay. And I've heard this saying used a lot just by people that, I've been exposed to in my business community. I rather have an A team, meaning a really skilled team, and a B idea, a decent idea, than an A idea with a B+ team or a B team. So most entrepreneurs who have successfully grown a business, I think, put huge value in their team. That's smart. Having people around you as the owner to support your skills, to support your vision is enormous. But how in the world, as a new entity that's doing very little income, and maybe you personally don't have a lot of money to invest in your own business, how do you start to build this quote unquote A team, the best people that can support you in growing your business? Well, I'm going to share with you my experience. Unless you are somehow able to get a bank loan or friends and family investment or investment from outside individuals, you will likely not have the money to build an A team that you employ, meaning that, people show up day in and day out just for you, right? Their skills are exclusively, or at least for the most part, exclusively used in your business, and you are employing them. You're responsible for providing them with the salary. If you want to build an A+ team at an early stage, my experience tells me you've got to work with subcontractors. Sometimes they're referred to as freelancers. And I'm going to go a little deeper on this. What's the difference between a contractor and an employee? Well, a contractor comes in and they are not an employee of yours. They can work on many different projects, right? You're just bringing them in to fulfill a very specific contracted role. You provide them with an agreement to perform marketing services for you, as an example, or do cold calls and sales, or do bookkeeping and accounting. You contract, you basically provide an agreement to that person, and it outlines. Some people refer to this as a scope of work, right? They provide this scope of work or an outline of the job that needs to be done. We need specialists around us as, business owners. We may be super strong at, building up local connections that we can sell to, but maybe closing those deals is something that we just don't do. We don't have the follow through, or we don't have the time to do a certain aspect. So we need to kind of play to our strength. We can go to these networking events. We can build solid rapport with the community members that we want to do business with. We can, collect all the details, but maybe we need to contract with somebody who is just terrific at asking for the business and closing deals, right? That's just an example. If you want an A team, which is a novel idea, and you need to really probably better define what A team looks like. An A team, in my opinion, is a collection of talent that you are able to get bought into your organization around what you're not really good at, right? all of us have our limitations. We tend to be strong at a one or two things and much weaker at all the other things that we need to do to run a business. When you're at an early stage of revenue and you have very little profit, so think that you're going to bring on even a person that requires a $35,000 salary is a large ask, okay? It would be much wiser, from my experience, to go on a freelancer, to go on an Upwork, to go on even an Indeed, and seek out somebody for an hourly rate or a flat project fee to come in and work with you on a project versus being a day-to-day contributor to your business. Think hyper specifically. What is it that you're contributing that you feel really confident that you can do to grow your business? Where are all your weaker spots? And instead of employing somebody to come and fill those gaps initially, find really amazing contractors that have great track records. And I'll talk about this for a second. When you are looking on an Upwork or a freelancer, you can find what other individuals or organizations who've worked with that freelancer are saying. You can find that feedback, those testimonials. It is amazing when you can kind of see a track record that a person has of how they performed on other similar tasks that you might be asking them to perform. What's a little iffier is if you go on Indeed and somebody might have a resume, which is kind of like a testimonial, but oftentimes they're just writing what they believe they're good at. And, you know, you may be able to extract from their experiences what types of skills that they could bring to your organization. But my thought process is building an A-team starts with identifying your own kind of shortcomings and weaknesses, and building maybe even just one person at first. Maybe you say to yourself, wow, we have begun to gain traction. People know what this business is, but we're looking very unpolished from a from a branding standpoint. And we need a logo and we need to look a little more professional. Maybe you then say, I could go on Canva and I could do some designing, but I feel very unsure of myself. Let me go get somebody. And again, maybe you can turn to a Fiverr or a different site to go issue a design contest that brings you back many designs for a low cost. Maybe you look at a portfolio of somebody on Upwork and you think, man, they really know what they're doing. Let me grab them. So working with folks that are specialized in your weak spot and just kind of, I'm going to call it contracting with them just to see what they deliver on a really small scale project. That is so wise. I'm going to go back to a line I probably shared in another video, and I'm not going to take credit for this. Seth Godin, who's, I think in a lot of people's opinion, a very well-respected marketer, has a saying, I don't know that I want to work with you until I work with you. So if you start with a contractor that you are just giving a very specific task to, and you see their level of work, their level of competency, and what you've tasked them with, and they come back and they produce an amazing result, give them a little more work. So as you're building your business, you're contracting some of the tasks that you know that you're not a top level performer on to somebody else, and you're just asking them to do that. And when they come back to you with the result, you can think, wow, this is making my life a lot easier. And our business is growing and it's building its relevancy and it's building appeal by working with this person who's delivering such a stellar result in this area that I know I'm not very good at. So contracting with specialists, it's huge, and it prevents you from having to expend so many resources trying to employ people. Contracting is so much better for early stage businesses that are not going to have bank funding or private funding. Build management skills. Okay. When we start out as business owners, and maybe some people that are starting and working their business have previous management skills. That was not my case. okay? And maybe some of you listening to this, it won't be your case as well. When you employ someone, you're immediately responsible for kind of their livelihood. You have to be able to task them very efficiently if you're going to pay them to show up for you, even part-time every day. You actually have to become a really good manager really quick because you're very responsible for their well-being. And as a business owner, you need them to perform certain tasks for you to make it worth you paying them. Okay. That might sound obvious, but the reason I like working with contractors, or I really liked working with contractors as we began our growth journey, is because instead of having to task somebody with things, I guess, day to day, you can just think like, we really need this marketing campaign improved. We need to change the copy. We need to make our ad images better. We need to make our call to action stronger, etc. Instead of having to think about tasks to kind of keep somebody's plate filled in them doing pertinent things for your business every day, that's a hard task. A contractor, you just have to map out their steps one time, and they're probably pretty good because their reputation's at stake. They have professionally honed their skills as a marketer. You're contracting to them, and they know a lot about their craft, so you don't have to manage them like you would have to manage maybe an employee that's helping you with a variety of tasks. You can be much more specific, and they're probably a business owner too, the person you're contracting with. So they have a more self-starter mentality, more of a drive to bring to you ideas versus you bring to them. Employees will often need exceptional amounts of guidance to get started and to know a lot of things. And you've really got to kind of keep them busy to get the most out. Oftentimes, great contractors already know what they're doing in their particular area of business that you've asked them to perform. So you will benefit as a person that may not have a lot of management experience by having someone that's a bit more self-managed. You will thank me for looking for those that don't need a lot of management. As an entrepreneur, our time, or as a business owner, our time is quite precious. Everybody's is. But if we really want to grow our business, the more time we spend managing and having people dependent on us figuring everything out, which we may or may not do, the worse it becomes. Whereas if we have that contractor as part of our team, the contractor, if the business, if our organization happens to slow down, or heaven forbid that it goes out of business, that contractor isn't depending on us for all their work. It's probably something that they want to do, and it's a stream of income for them, but it's not the only thing. So this gives us less pressure to build our management capability. We can lean heavily on somebody that has experience kind of self-directing and not be so dependent on us for their income and all their directives. So that's another great reason to work with a contractor. More flexibility. I think the great thing is, again, and this is going to go back to the employee versus contractor model. When you're working with contractors, the person might only need to work on what you need them to for a day, a week, a very short while. And once that person completes the task, if they've done well, great. Maybe you can figure out other things for them to do. But if they haven't done so well, you're not so knee deep into the cost and you're going to get attached to people that are doing work with you. You are less attached just because the project had kind of a more defined start and end time. Also, the person isn't really relying on you for their income. And you have the ability to say, hey, you did a great job. As other work comes up and as we grow, I'd like to work with you more. Or if they've not done so well, hey, you can give them good feedback and know that, you may not go back to them. I really wasn't thrilled with this, and the timeline that we discussed wasn't reached, and the result that we talked about for what you need to deliver wasn't attained. and you can part ways with the person, and it doesn't feel like you're firing them. They may have other customers that just think the world of what they're doing. They can move on much more seamlessly, but you can add in a variety of skill sets. Maybe you need a person that's a great copywriter, knows how to use ChatGPT exceptionally well to generate content for something that you're doing. And maybe you also need, at the same time, somebody that's good at cold email outreach. I don't know. You feel like, instead of, if you had to commit to somebody's salary for indefinite amount of time versus, hey, I'm going to get a contractor to do this, and then I'm going to give a very small project for somebody to do this. You have the ability to mix and match people without committing to these large salaries up front. They can do highly targeted projects, and you can kind of put together your own team. Oftentimes I see agencies, both domestically and internationally, that already have a variety of talent that you might pay a flat rate to, and they already have people that do a variety of things. Maybe they have somebody that's a genius at Facebook ads, and then somebody that does Snapchat content and TikToks. They already have a variety of people with a multitude of skills in-house. So you just have a lot of flexibility to plug in stuff you need, stop it when you no longer need it, and move on to other things without feeling as tied down. Flexibility when you don't know what tomorrow holds, it's a great thing. It's a great thing to have. You got to look at everything as an investment. Okay. If you want to scale a business and start to get everything off of your plate, right? When you have a job, everything is kind of your responsibility. All the deliverables land on you. And I think when you have a business, especially at an early stage, that happens to be similar. That is not probably why we wanted to go into business for ourselves. We wanted to have some ownership over the responsibilities of getting things done day to day. But we also wanted people to work with us, more than likely, or some of us wanted this, work with us to make sure parts of the business that we are not as good at or just simply don't like doing could be handled by somebody who really embraced those tasks. Okay. To get this done, it's an investment, and you have to see if it's going to make a return. Let's look at a very specific example. If part of growing your business was cold email and cold LinkedIn outreach, right? Sending messages to people on LinkedIn, sending emails to people, and proposing something that you do. Let's say you had an office cleaning service, just as an example. You have to think to yourself, okay, I was able to generate last year $450,000 of top line income, just making up a number. Okay. I spent 8 hours of my day comprising cold emails and LinkedIn messages to prospective customers, right? You know your conversion rate. You have a template for how you're doing this messaging, right? You know that you're trying to drive them to an exploration call, or to download a brochure, or to whatever. Like, you have a very specific action item that shows that they're a good prospect for your sale. You have to think through, if I have this so systematized, do I need to be the only person doing this, or should I invest? And let's think through this word. Should I invest in somebody that can take over the system I've created and perform those tasks for me, so I can spend more of my time maybe going on site and doing bids, or handling stage 2 once somebody's expressed interest, calling them up and getting into an exploration call, or whatever it is. Can you justify investing in somebody to do a part of the business, to perform a part of the business that you've systematized? Can you pay them a certain amount, and can you do something else that will elevate the sales of the business or allow the business to grow further? Is it time to make that investment? And once you made the investment, right, let's say you paid somebody $35 an hour to do this. And again, I'm just making up a number. Can you look maybe 3 months later and see, wow, this is awesome. We've elevated our top line to this. Our profitability has grown here because now I'm spending more of my own time growing the business in this way. And this person's really holding us down, executing on the system that we put together. Make sure you're measuring your contractor's impact so you can see, because everybody uses the expression time is money and my time is so valuable. Well, make sure that when you put a contractor in place to take over something that's systematized, that is true, that you have now put your time to a higher and better purpose that's yielding a return on your investment. When you find somebody good, let's say somebody is just doing a really incredible job with your bookkeeping and company taxes. Okay, just as a for instance, maybe you say, you know what, we're going to get into a partnership with another entity, and I want to make sure that our best interests are being looked out for. Maybe you can ask that person who's just knocking it out of the park with your accounting and taxes, do you know a business attorney that could help me with contract negotiation and setting up a contract for this partnership that I want? When you find somebody good, ask them, even if you can't afford the person right away, ask them who they know. Most people who are good at what they do hold themselves to a certain standard, and they hold other people that they recommend to a certain standard. So if you like a person's work that you're working with, this is another thing, whether somebody's an employer or contractor, but I think it's really true of contractors. When you like a contractor's work that you're already working with, ask them for other referrals to individuals that they recommend or that they've worked with in the past, so you can start growing this potential A-player team that you want, right? All of us have been told it's all about the team, but you got to really start it small. When you have a contractor that you see as performing well and kind of works in a way that meshes with how you work, it is time to ask them, who else do you know? So you can start making this A-plus team that everybody says is so important. And here's the final thing. Contractors are wonderful. They are the base of kind of getting started. Like we talked about, they help us become better managers because they're often more self-managed. They help us do things that we may not be skilled at. They can refer other people that they've personally worked with or recommend to help us grow. But what are we trying to do? Why would we use contractors? And what is one of the things that's really essential? Predictability. Business owners need to get to a stage of predictability where they are kind of doing the task that they are best equipped to do. They have other contractors holding down the other pieces of the business that are essential to growth. And once you reach predictability, I do sales, I have a contractor for marketing, I have a contractor for customer experience management, I have a contractor for bookkeeping and accounting, I have a contractor for legal. Once you've built this team and the growth that you're getting is predictable and the month over month sales are predictable and you have like a really good system, that's incredible. You built predictability, and then you can maybe start thinking about this person's hourly rate or their project fee is quite high. I now probably could employ them and provide them with more of a steady income in exchange for bringing down that rate more. Or, hey, they've done a great job holding us down and getting us to this point, but I really need somebody to go and be with us every day and devote every kind of ounce of energy they have just to us instead of contracting all over the map. But what we're trying to do as entrepreneurs in the early stage is build to a level of some predictability. Predictability is a fleeting experience, just like happiness. I'm sorry, it is. But what we're trying to do by bringing contractors first is we want our systems to be as predictable as possible, and possible to be predictable, day in and day out to a perfect degree, but as predictable as possible. And once we built that predictability, right, we should have more income to pay a predictable wage to somebody who might work with us on a more ongoing, permanent basis. All right. So use contractors to build to a stage of a high degree of predictability. Again, predictability is fleeting. Happiness is fleeting. A lot of things as a business owner are fleeting. But note, you're trying to experiment with people that will come in and contract doing certain things for you to build your predictability. Is this person a trustworthy contractor that can deliver for me? Does this free up my time? Does it make good returns? Does it allow the business to grow? Then adding the next person and the next person and the next person. And then you'll have a whole outsourced or contracted team, right? Where you're now working hopefully in your core competency, and you have a group of people that surround you that you're really motivated by, that you brought on as the business could afford to bring them on. And if the business, for whatever reason, experienced a downturn or couldn't afford, you could part ways more easily, right? But once you get to that level of, a high degree of predictability, now you can crank up the volume and bring somebody on into your organization on a more day-to-day focused, longer-term basis. I hope that this makes sense, and I hope that shows you this whole concept of an A team is a great concept. But when you can't afford a great team because they are expensive, what you're looking to do is get on contractors to help you build up more slowly and more specifically. And as the business grows, you add more and more of them, and you become an outsourced amazing team, hopefully, or at least building more predictability. Then you can start switching your model to people who work with you on a more exclusive basis. So until next time, continue to grow your business 0 to 1 million and try to apply some of these tips. Always feel free to comment if you have specific questions that you'd like me to address. Thank you so much.